Need something destroyed?
Hey Nookanites! It's round of 16 time again in the Jin Air OSL. Yes, we finally do have a sponsor. Whew! Close call, guys. But yeah, Jin Air is a subsidiary of Korean Air. So this is basically Korean Air Season 3 of the OSL. We're going to start it off with a team matchup. Fantasy, the champion from last season, is going up against a rookie player on SK Telecom T1, who has been doing pretty fantastic as of late. SoO, who is a Zerg player. These guys are cracking up, typing your mama jokes back and forth already. But yeah, we're starting it off on Pathfinder, another returning map from the last OSL. We have two of those, Gladiator and Pathfinder. And here we go. I apologize for what is going to be a very no-frills kind of commentary day. I don't have much time. This has been a very hectic week for me. But here we go. Except, up at the 12 o'clock position in yellow is Fantasy. Down at the 8 o'clock position in green is SoO. I remember a Protoss player named SoO. Yeah, that was in my first triple with Cholera, I believe. Cholera and Ranchin. A lot of people don't realize I cast games with Cholera, but I did, back before he disappeared. But yeah, there was a Protoss player named SoO, who I believe is a coach now. But anyway, yes, as I said, I don't have much time today, so I'm going to be blazing through this. Didn't even have really enough time to fit the intro music onto the intro, so I'm probably just going to fade up, something like that. And I was going to make a new intro tile and a bunch of new different things, but I don't have the time to do it, so I'll do it later. And this I was going to try to do yesterday. These games I was trying to do yesterday, but it would have been a bad day to do it anyway. I'm kind of glad I postponed because I got the videos late. Because these are actually very nice videos, I have to say. Big improvement from the round of 24 videos with the interlacing and all that garbage. This is like Bazy's videos. John747, he sent me the best quality videos I've ever seen, and this is pretty damn close to that, I think. Very, very high quality videos, so that is fantastic. As you see, Fantasy is going to wall off inside of his natural expansion. And I remember one Fantasy game on this map in the last OSL, and I believe it was against Hydra, where Fantasy went for a mech build against Hydra. Hydra went for Queens against him, but wasn't able to win with that Queen build, which always makes everyone very disappointed when a Zerg player can't win with Queens. Because, yeah, Queens have actually become very common in late game TVZ as of late. I'm not sure if we'll see it from SoO today. That seems to be more of a Wunjin Stars and CJ Intus Zerg thing to do. But here comes SoO. He's sneaking in. Fantasy blocking off completely, and there comes the drone, just flipping around, looking for stuff. Team matchups are always very, very interesting, just because the players are so well equipped for each other. But here the Zerglings are coming up already. Fantasy is going to have a tough time defending his front. There's some pretty early Zerglings. I think it was an overpull or a 9-pull build. Wasn't quite paying attention there, but I think the Zerglings are going to push the front. There should be a Marine out for Fantasy. As long as he can get his Marine behind the wall, I think he's going to be okay. There is that egg there blocking, as the observers are pointing out. So there is a Marine. The Marine's got to get to the front, though. The Zerglings. Oh, man. Fantasy's got to pull over here with a few SCVs to repair this front. He has one SCV. That's not going to be enough on this supply depot. Second. Go. I got the second SCV on. Whoa. He breaks through. Oh, man. SoO is breaking through. Fantasy only has 2 Marines. He has 2. He's doing a pretty good job blocking with those SCVs, though. It's a lot more well, action-packed opening than I was expecting, but now the Zerglings, oh, all taken down. That was so close. So close. Wow. Man, that was an exciting opening, but Fantasy's going to try to wall back off again as SoO is expanding. Well, that was fun. I completely forget what I was talking about now, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We're into the game now. That's ridiculous. I do believe that SoO went for a 9-pull or an over-pull build. I saw him put down the pull earlier, but it didn't click in my head that it was a pretty early pull going against Fantasy's complete wall-in, but that was pretty insane. Yeah, I think I was talking about the guys knowing each other's play very well. That's the big factor in when you're looking at in-team matchups. Because the players, they don't need to find replays or find videos of the other player. They know the other players play so well that they can do crazy, incredible things like that to break through because they know what the other player typically opens with. Not only do they know their standard timings and all that, but they know what the player would consider shaking it up. So they can look at both of those things, and they'll think, well, does Fantasy want to shake things up on this map? I've seen the way he shakes things up. But here comes the factor already for Fantasy, working up possibly into a mech build again. Could be a mech build. I'm trying to remember his game against Hydra is a bit difficult because, yeah, wasn't able to do a whole lot of research today. Everything I'm going to mention today is just completely off memory because I did not have time to research. Yeah, yesterday I woke up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, which I haven't seen 8 o'clock in years, I think. So I was basically in a coma as these guys delivered an elliptical trainer to my apartment. And so I had a bunch of coffee after that, and the big box with the elliptical trainer in it is right behind me here. I've been setting beers on it, ironically. I should just put a pillow up there and go completely ironic with this thing. My exercise equipment, just fall asleep there with a beer. But anyway, Fantasy's looking around, sees that layer coming up. He has the armory, so this is going to be another mech build from Fantasy, sticking to his guns, I guess. Sticking to what worked for him before in the last OSL. Of course, it's been a very, very, very long time since the last OSL. Well, I guess not too long. But as far as between seasons time goes, it has been a very long time between seasons. Since the Bacchus OSL 2010. We're in the middle of 2011, and we finally have another OSL. But here comes Fantasy, trying to sneak in with that Vulture, get some harassment done. But I believe the Zerglings are speed upgraded. They are, so they're going to chase down that pesky Vulture, try to keep it away from the drones inside the natural expansion. But I believe that Fantasy, yeah, he's floated over with the building. Not exactly sure what building that was, but he was getting the scout inside of the main. So let's see what the guys do now. They're both at 2 bases. Fantasy is going around here. He's going to work up a big grouping of Goliath soon, I believe. Of course, he put down his armory. That could be for the drone that was going out to put down another base that's going to die. And Fantasy, I think that's exactly what he wanted to do. Keep SoO from putting down another base. Now he's sneaking inside this natural expansion. SoO has cut a lot of drone production, I think, to get up his mutas as quickly as he possibly can. Chasing around. That Vulture takes out the Vulture. But Fantasy only went for one single Vulture, so he wasn't completely committing to that kind of harassment build. And I don't see the Goliaths yet. They must be grouping up somewhere. There are the Goliaths I saw. And a bunker at the front. So Fantasy is going to stay at 2 bases for a pretty long time now. He knows he needs to be defensive against SoO's initial muta opening. And it seems that Fantasy is going to be pretty safe. He has turrets everywhere. Of course, he has his Goliath and the Charon upgrade. Probably going to get done soon. Doesn't have it yet, but he will have it soon. I think that is what's researching at the machine shop. So I don't think these mutas are actually going to get that much done. Yeah, I don't think SoO is going to be able to do much. He can come in at the exact center point of those that mineral line. I think you might be able to snipe a couple of SCVs, something like that. But other than that, I don't see... Whoa, he's coming in with Scourge, actually. Maybe anticipating Valkyries or an early Science Vessel. That is kind of strange. Playing just in case there are Valkyries. He wanted to be prepared for the initial Valkyrie. But there were not. Oh, man. So Fantasy, he has turrets everywhere. Getting up a starport. So he might actually end up going for Valkyries. But I kind of doubt it. He's probably just trying to work up to his upgrades. But there is a Charon upgrades, as the Charon booster upgrade is done, so Fantasy is going to be able to outrange those mutas, keep them away from the bases for a pretty long time, until he can go out with his big push Yeah, big push. He's probably going to wait for a tank or two before he tries the push. But SoO has established, finally, 6 o'clock base down there. That just popped up for him. He's probably going to transfer over with some, not SCVs, but drones to the 6 o'clock. And let's see, Hydralisk Den at the front. So I think this is going to be kind of a dual-pronged attack, which is probably the best thing to do against Terran mech these days. Go for Hydralisk on the ground, some mutas in the air. You attack with both at the same time, gives you a lot of maneuverability, and that is the big disadvantage of a mech build for a Terran, is the maneuverability of it. You have to keep your entire army together, which I guess you could say for Bio Terran as well, the Medic Marine Terran, but not nearly as much. Medic Marines, you can send out little squads. You can't really do that with Goliaths. You have to keep all the Goliaths together, and if you have tanks, you especially have to keep your entire army together to protect the tanks, because they become the most important part of your army. But here comes some more harassment, run by, for, oh, what are those mutas doing? Just kind of sitting there. I guess they were talking to the Scourge, like, hey, what are you going to do now? I don't know. I'm Scourge. There's nothing out there. But here come the Goliaths are moving out. The barracks has been floated, which means Fantasy is going to move out with basically just Goliaths. He's moving out with just Goliaths, not even waiting for his tank, I think, which could work out great. Of course, with the Hydralisk support, I do think that SoO will be able to fend this off. But I'm going to have to take a look at those mech upgrades. Oh, we got +1 and +1 armor, +1 attack and +1 armor for the Goliaths. No, wait, that was just +1 attack. Never mind. I was looking at the air and the ground attack for the Goliaths. Just saw the 2 +1s. Whatever. There's the mines being laid now by Fantasy out there. He finds the Mutalist yet again. And the mutas haven't really been able to do anything, but finally the Scourge are going to come in handy because we have science vessels out that are researching the Irradiate. So one Irradiate on that clump of mutas is going to bring down SoO's army by about half. So this is going to be very difficult to defend if he can't group up enough Hydras to do it. He does have Hydras at each of his bases, just in case. He has some Hydras as natural and his 6 o'clock position. Not sure about the main or not, but he does have those mutas to defend that. You got Fantasy trying to break the egg at the front just to make it a little bit easier. The Scourge get in. He snipes the science vessel. Oh, that's going to work out great. Of course, there is another science vessel on the way. I saw it researching earlier, so it's probably almost done. But taking down a science vessel that early is fantastic. Plus, it's going to add value to the mutas, because the mutas are going to be able to stay out a bit longer and help out the Hydras on the ground. So Fantasy might be a bit reluctant to move out soon. He's still working on that egg just so he can move out, so it's easier to move out with his Goliaths. But alright, let's take a look at what Fantasy does now. He's moving out and he's still only on 2 bases. So he'll probably try to take his 3rd base soon, and SoO has to stop that from happening at all costs. Because Fantasy on 3 bases is pretty damn scary. Not quite as scary as Flash on 3 bases, but yeah, second best Terran player here. Sniping of the vultures that try to take out more drones at the 6 o'clock position. 4th base is coming up for SoO now at the outside 8 o'clock. I believe that is a mineral-only base, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time since I've seen the games on Pathfinder. This is a very nice map. Reminds me a lot of Plasma in a way. And Fantasy absolutely manhandled Stork on this map, so no telling what that means. I'm not sure if Fantasy's lost on this map before, come to think of it. I'm not sure about that, but SoO is grouping up for a pretty huge attack. He has Hydras everywhere. Oh, man, so he might be going for a full frontal attack if he brings his mutas in at the same time. There is a science vessel that can irradiate the grouping of mutas, so he's going to have to be careful, especially as Fantasy places more mines outside of his natural. But Fantasy is going for his 3rd base now. He's floating it over. And SoO forced to back off because of the amount of Goliaths that are over there, but he can't really let Fantasy take this 3rd base. If he takes the 3rd base, he's going to have an extremely powerful mech army. The observers are pointing out that he does have +1 armor now, +1 armor and +1 attack for the mech army. So that is not good. 3 factories that I see, might have been 4. Couldn't exactly tell, but now SoO is moving up. He has a huge amount of troops and some reinforcements coming in at the same time. He's got to move in with those overlords just to make sure there aren't any mines over here that can be dragged. The defensive matrix on the tank at the front that was taking most of the hits, and Fantasy gets a nice surround on the rest of the Hydras, and the reinforcements can't clean it up. So that might have been game deciding there. Fantasy already moving out with that force, seeing the amount of damage he got done. He decided to push his luck a little bit, and he's moving out with a grouping of vultures as well to do some harassment down here at the outside, 8 o'clock position. No drones there yet, but oh god, the mines are going to drag into the eggs. Go, the eggs survive somehow. So there's Fantasy trying to get around, trying to keep away from these hydras and snipe the drones at the same time. Takes out 2 of the drones, I believe. There's still a D-Matrix tank at the front. And now SoO is pushing up. He's probably going to try some guerrilla tactics now to do this. He really needs to research drop, start dropping, and make Fantasy run back and forth with his mech army, because he has to keep his mech army together to utilize it. Oh, of course, queens. Queens, queens, queens. Oh, God. So queens are out now for SoO. I've never seen SoO use queens before, so no telling how effective they're going to be. Hopefully a lot more effective than Hydra's queens were in his game against Fantasy on this map. We'll have to see. But yeah, the queens will be for spawn broodling of the tanks, because at this stage in the game, the tanks do become the most powerful part of the Terran army, because it's impossible to get to them. With the Goliaths everywhere, the Goliaths protecting it, can't get in there with mutas, can't get close to them with the Hydras. So you need something to take out the tanks, and, well, spawn broodling one-shots tanks. So that could help out a lot, plus the broodlings get in there, cause a bit of broodling bombs, as you will. And I see that the science facility is researching some more, possibly for the upgrade, just the energy upgrade for the science vessels. Kind of strange there, but here come the queen, lots of queens. I think that might have been spotted actually by Fantasy. He skirted by with his vultures, but I'm not exactly sure if he saw the edge of that queen or not. The strategy could be scouted now by Fantasy, but we're going to have to see how he reacts to this. If he moves in, tries to get in and radiate on the queens. I see science vessels are on the move, but not completely moving out just yet. Plenty of factories for Fantasy to hold for the time being, plus he's working on his 4th base, floating over to the top outside 12 o'clock position, and Fantasy is prepared to intercept that new base coming up for SoO at the 5 o'clock. He's trying to take the 5 o'clock main, and this could be the point when Fantasy moves out, because he definitely doesn't want SoO to have 5 bases. That'll give him way too much gas and actually give him a shot at tackling this army that Fantasy has. And here comes some more. Hydras are grouping up. This is going to have to be a pretty massive attack. Oh, that's one of my favorite bands. Massive attack on Fantasy's army from SoO. But I think that was just a scouting overlord for SoO, trying to figure out what Fantasy was going for. Some more factories being added now. The mines. Oh, the mines. Gotta wait for those overlords before we move out. There's the overlords at the front, just to make sure they can snipe all these mines. But this is going to give Fantasy some information. He knows exactly where these hydras are, so he might move out. I'm checking Fantasy's army. He's grouping up, but he is not moving out just yet. Oh, he unseized all of his tanks, and that's a lot of tanks. Man, that's a lot of tanks. So he is moving out, knowing that the hydras are a bit out of position and on the move. So he knows where they are. He can track them, so he's moving out. And we'll find out soon if he knows about the queens. Oh, Lord. So the queens are going to come in, try to spawn broodling all of those tanks. Oh, here comes a big queen attack. About a dozen queens. I think that's just one control group worth of queens. Yeah, it looks like a control group to me. So they're going to come in, try to catch those tanks on the siege. They're flying over the mines now, so Fantasy definitely knows about the queens. And here come the hydras, not doing too well. They got to wait for the queens to come in first. Looks like they don't have the energy ready to do the spawn broodling attack, because they're just flying around. I guess just regenerating the energy, trying to get up to 150 to take down these tanks. But Fantasy creeping a little bit closer and closer with this huge line of tanks. And if SoO doesn't have drop, this could be impossible for him, because you got to get in there on top of the tanks. Even if he spawn broodlings half of these tanks, which I think he'll be able to do about half. All the Defiler Mound now coming up for SoO, moves up with an Overlord just to get a scout. For the queens, most likely. Here come the queens, still regenerating the energy. So the queen's got to get in soon and take out these tanks, because Fantasy is getting closer and closer and closer. Here comes Fantasy. Oh god, the queen's coming into play finally. No, still running away. Damn queens. Darn it. Takes so long to get that broodling energy going, and they're pretty much useless after the first broodling shot because it takes so long to get the energy back. But it seems that SoO is moving up to this position. Oh, his Hydras are very confused. He's not focusing to take down the supply depot right now, but the queen's coming in. The EMP! Oh, Fantasy, you rascal. EMP of the queens. I was joking about that in a commentary recently. And that was absolutely a joke. Oh, God. EMP. Another EMP of the queens. So nothing the queens can do at all. They were probably just about there to get the spawn broodling of the tanks. But it's, yeah, like I said, GG. These players know each other so well. Fantasy was like, okay, you're going for queens. I know you are. I played with you before. Hey, they're the queens. Let's EMP them. So that's what that upgrade was at the science facility earlier. Wow. So Fantasy taking it in convincing form. And he's going to meet his teammate out at the front. Probably share a couple of chuckles with him there. Oh, always nice to see that. So the champion looking strong moving into this OSL. All right, let's move on to Flash versus Hydra.